Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about what it's like to shake Andrew Yang's hand. All right, so September 17th, Tuesday, September 17th, 2019, Andrew Yang came to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He physically traveled there, and he had an Andrew Yang rally, and it was amazing. I was super psyched, right? So I'll just give you a little bit of the story of my journey to shake Andrew Yang's hand. It's a huge moment in my life. It really is a historical moment in my life. It's really incredibly important to me, and it's a big deal to me. I'm really humbled and thankful and excited. And I just want to tell you the journey of it. All right, so on that day, I got off. So the rally was at 6:30 p.m. in the city. I got off at 3 p.m. Traveled all the way back from where I work to my home, and then launched out. And then my wife actually got me in the car, and it's hard to get in and out of Philadelphia. It really is. So my wife essentially chauffeured me right to the Philadelphia Art Museum, and I got there at 4 p.m. Right, and then at that point I had to wait 2.5 hours to see Andrew Yang, right? And I did that joyfully. I brought a book, Peter Tieras's The United States of Japan, great book about Mecca. So I read that while I stood right at the barrier, right in front of where Andrew Yang would speak, right? So one of the things is I stood in line, I stood there waiting for Andrew Yang for 2.5 hours, just so that I could be as close as possible, right? And it was 100% worth it, and it allowed me to be sure that I would be able to shake his hand. It was a big deal, because not everyone who got there was guaranteed that opportunity, because there were so many people. I think there was easily 1,000 people, maybe like 1,500, and basically it was right at the Philadelphia Art Museum. It was on the Rocky Stairs, at the bottom of the Rocky Stairs, and there's kind of a big, almost like a outdoor area at the bottom of the stairs, and he was elevated up on the stairs, and it was really amazing, right? So I waited my turn, right? I got in line, I kept my place in line, right at the barrier. I was right there, and I was right at the barrier. When he spoke, I was literally, I think, 15 feet away from him. It was incredible, right? So basically he comes up, he gives about a 45 minute speech. It was fantastic. He was high energy. It was really amazing, right? And then he actually finishes out, and they turn on the music, this big booming, hip hop music, and he strides down the stairs, and he comes from my right across to the left, and he is literally sweeping across this grouping of people who are all fans, of course, who are all there to see him, right? And he starts at the far side, and so there's 1,000 people behind me. I'm at the barrier. There's this steel barrier that has been put up to separate the crowd from the speaker, right, Andrew Yang. And so at that point, he starts making his way down the barrier, and this is new. This is a modern thing, right? There's always been a press to see people. So an aspect of running for president is you become a celebrity, right? So there is now celebrity attached to Andrew Yang. And so as he goes down, it was a very slow plod across that row, just that barrier row, right? And there were things happening. So one, he was stopping. He was signing books, right? He was saying hello, right? He was signing signs, right? Like the Andrew Yang for president, the math sign, the humanity first sign, right? All these awesome signs that people had brung, and also that the Philadelphia campaign area were handing out, right? Which was really awesome, right? Math, all of those, right? So he's going along, and and he's having short conversations with people. Then he's turning around backwards so that people can get selfies with him, right? And he's leaning back into the crowd, right? And I cannot tell you the transformation this country has had from the camera. The camera has changed everything. It changes everything in our society. But the selfies were there. Okay. So finally he comes down, right? And first of all, I got to tell you, there was a press of people, right? So people are pressing in. And there are hands coming from behind me, right? And at first, he's high-fiving everybody. He's also high-fiving people. So I put my hand up. I got a high five. But I really wanted a handshake, right? So I literally stuck my hand through. There was one person in front of me at the barrier, right? And I stuck my hand through these two people. I could see my hand. And, and I looked him in the eye. He looked me in the eye. And he shook my hand, right? And I was just like, holy cow. So I just shook Andrew Yang's hand. I just shook the next president of the United States' hand, right? This is amazing. I can't shake George Washington's hand. I can't shake Abraham Lincoln's hand. But I did shake Andrew Yang's hand, right? That's the grouping, right? And it was amazing. It was truly a very special moment. It was one of the most special moments of my life. It was incredible. Now, a few things. When I shook his hand, I'm so sorry to say this. I'm a little ashamed to say this, but I'm going to share it with you. I was a little struck that his hand was soft, like my hand, right? I am a little ashamed. I am a man. I try to be a man, and I have a wife. I want to be a man for my wife, right? And my hands are soft. I feel so ashamed of this, but they are, right? And the reason why is the hardest work I do is I clickety-clack on a typeboard, on a keyboard, 10 hours a day, and it's a little shameful, right? Because you're like, hey, it'd be nice to cut some trees down and, stack a cord of wood or, lay some bricks or, but the reality is my hands are soft, right? And it struck me in that moment, Andrew Yang is a human being, right? Like me. His hands are soft. And the reason why is he's double Ivy League. He worked in the corporate world. He worked in the benevolence world, right? And so the reality is Andrew Yang has not been doing ton of physical labor. So his hands don't, feel like a laborer's hands, right? Like it's just not, it's not the way it is, right? However, at that point, I shook his hand and I was looking down at the hand, and then I looked up and I looked right in the eye. I looked Andrew Yang right in the eye. And in that moment, I actually, just stopped for 1 second, and I realized this man is going to be the next president of the United States. And this is history. This is his history. This is my history. This is American history. Right here, this moment, right? And when I looked him in the eye, I have to say he was more than human to me, right? He was a part of the American legacy, and the part that, that we as Americans, this is what we're striving for. We want a leader who's better than we are, who has worked harder, is smarter, has more wisdom, has more kindness, and he's the real deal, right? And when I looked him in the eye, I truly saw the part of Andrew Yang that goes beyond humanity, right? He is humanity first, but he is beyond humanity, and he is not. He truly is someone who deserves to be put into that place of honor in the U.S. presidency. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is he is a person who will begin to restore our presidency to people who aren't part of the Me Too problem, and people who aren't people who don't deserve to be there, frankly, because of their character, right? He is a person of character, and and just looking in his eyes, I truly, I had believed this before, but I'm more certain of it now. I think he's the genuine, real deal, right? And when he was there, he was not dismissive to a single person. He was patient, and he was kind, and he was genuine. And the things he said in real life and the way he looked in real life matched the projection, the image that you've all seen, right? And what really struck me, and a few other things, just shaking his hand and seeing him in person, literally a foot from my face, is that One thing is he really is very young, very spry, right? Very healthy. You could tell like he's doing what he can to get his exercise now and to remain healthy and to remain strong for this incredible, important drive toward the presidency, which is incredibly physical. Boy, I will tell you, the campaign trail is incredibly physical, and it really struck me just how hard he is working every single day, right? And how a single slip can harm you, right? Like a single slip of the tongue, a single slip of the foot, a single bad interaction with a person. It's so dangerous what he's doing. It truly is, right? There's danger in it, danger every single day. And I was just really incredibly impressed with how well he is handling every single step, every single moment. All right, so this is one. So I remember this is one of the handshakes I'm going to remember in my lifetime. So for a brief period, for about 3 years, I was the head of security at the largest, swankiest hotel in Louisville, Kentucky, in the 90s. And when I was there, I brought in no less than a dozen celebrities, right? And so I've seen many celebrities, and I've been very close to them. I didn't shake any of their hands because I was in a professional capacity, right? And and reality. But so when it comes to handshakes, I only remember a few. I remember when I finished my degree, my graduate degree, my graduate degree. I have a master's in technology management. My father shook my hand, right? My father is a really reserved guy. Not a lot of hugs, not a lot of I'm proud of yous, very few. I can count them on one hand. But when I earned my graduate degree, my dad shook my hand and just said, I'm proud of you, son. And I remember that. And that is a handshake I will remember to the end of my days. My wife, my beautiful wife, when I was young, I was only I was 19 years old, and I went to a gentleman who was my wife's father, and I did the sit down. I did it old school, and I said I had coffee. I didn't tell my girlfriend at the time. I didn't tell her. I went to her father, and I said, I just went to his house, and I said, hey, can we have, can I come in? And he's like, sure. You want a cup of coffee? And I sat down at the table with him, and I said, I would like to marry your daughter. Can I get your blessing to do that? And he said, yes. Right? It was longer than that, and he was very happy, and he was excited about it. And when I stood up to leave after I finished that cup of coffee, he stood up and he shook my hand and he said, welcome to the family. And I remember that handshake even now. And there's a convention I go to, and I know it seems strange to include this one, but there's a convention I go to in the fall every year. It's an authors convention, a science fiction authors convention, and it's called PhilCon. And there's a woman there. Her first name is Hildy, and she is a brilliant author, and she's an incredible presenter, right? Actually, she's an incredible panel host, right? I've sat through literally probably 50 to 100 of these panels through the years, and she's the best panel host I've ever seen. She draws out the people who are on the panel. She controls the audience. I've learned a ton from her. She is she's an anchor in my life. I see her just once a year in person. But she's so brilliant and so inspiring and so creative and artistic. And because I follow her on Facebook, I also see that she goes through travails and she goes through trials. And just once at PhilCon, I shook her hand. I shook Hildy's hand. And I remember that handshake to this day. Those 3 handshakes I remember in my life. They were the important ones. And there is one more in that grouping of incredibly important handshakes to me, and that is Andrew Yang. I truly believe that on Tuesday, September 17th, 2019, I shook the hand of the next president of the United States of America. And it is one of the greatest honors of my life, and I am incredibly excited and incredibly thankful to my wife who drove me into Philadelphia so we didn't have to deal with all the parking, and we made sure that I wasn't late or missed the event because there was traffic, and I'm thankful to the 1,000 people who made the event special and made it so that this was incredibly beneficial for Andrew Yang. But yesterday, I'm doing everything I can to help Andrew Yang. But yesterday, Andrew Yang helped me, and he helped me remain incredibly excited about American politics, and he helped me to realize that sometimes just the awesome dreams and inspirations that you see and the hope you have for your nation can become reality. And it really meant a lot to me. It really did. Thank you for letting me share this with you today. Have a wonderful day. Take care.